Okay, back with this Grand Tactician Civil War Union campaign that has actually yet to start. Still have not hit unpause from the first episode. So, as I kind of said I was going to do, well, first let me kind of go in order and kind of organize this. Kind of national level stuff. Finances. Basically, all I did was I put all the sliders on very high. That's it. And to be honest, I have never found a compelling reason not to do that. One aspect of this, the economic aspect of this game is a little, I don't know the right word. There's a tremendous amount of detail in it and not very much you can do about it. Basically, it's a capitalist, it's a private economy that you can influence a lot indirectly with things like taxes and deficit spending, subsidies to various areas. But it's not that you can just go out and, well, I need more iron, and go out and build a bunch more iron mines. That's not the way it works. Basically, you subsidize industry, and eventually maybe a few more iron mines may pop up in your territories. And then, of course, as you lose or gain territory, you lose or gain industrial capacity, agricultural capacity, and all that sort of thing. But the bottom line is there's really very few decisions to make economically in this game, despite the fact that there's a tremendous amount of detail and stuff going on under the hood that you really can't influence very much directly. So it's kind of odd that you build all this stuff into the game to model the economy that you just can't do much with. And in the revenues and expenses, I said there's really no reason not to put everything at the top. Well, for one thing, policies unlock additional levels of subsidies. So like right here, agriculture, I've got it set to very high, but it's still a zero subsidy because I need to unlock the first agricultural level policy to even put any subsidies into ag at all. Similar situation up here with diplomacy. So even at the beginning, if you max everything out, it works out to 1.25 million. But even as we add more policies, industry will add at least another level, maybe two. Agriculture, I'll probably add at least one. Diplomacy, but even as you add more policies, you're just not going to spend more than, I don't know, eventually maybe 3 to 3.5 million per I'm not sure if this is per month or per year. This is per year. So if this subsidies, even if it were at 3 or 4 million a year, or right here at the beginning of the campaign, I'm already spending 40 million on overall government administration, 7.5 million on interest costs to deficit spending already in place, 16 million on the Army, 3.5 million on the Navy. Subsidies just really aren't, even if you've got them maxed out, they're just not that big a part of the budget. So I see it as the combined benefits of all this is just worth the money. Should it be that way in the economic model? Probably not. Do they need to do more work on that in the future patch? I'd say so. But that's just kind of the way I see the econ in this game for the time being. Anyway, so that's what I've done with finances. Policies. We have a number of options. And it is kind of time gated. Like right now, House Divided, that would be pre-war stuff you could do if I had chosen the spring 1861 campaign. And now that the war is just starting, that opens up chapter 2. And then the war will go on for a while before we go into chapter 3, 4, well, 3 and 4. I think chapter 3 probably opens up sometime in the middle or toward the end of 1862. But these two, the chapter 2 and the chapter 3, the vast majority of the campaign will all be in these two bands of policies. You can get pretty, there's very little here at the end, and this is, these might never get unlocked anyway, because you are limited on the number of policies you can have. Right now, we can have a maximum of 7, and that's because, for the time being, with so few policies, I didn't see any need to spend any additional money on politics. Once we get up to 7 policies, I'll start adding this in one at a time, and that gets us an additional 5. So you can actually get up to a total of 12 policies, at least base. I think there may be, I think one of these diplomacy ones might open up yet another one. I'm not sure about that. I could be wrong about that. Don't hold me to it. Basically, the diplomacy policies improve your relations with Europe and allow you to import European weapons. Probably a little bit more important for the Confederacy, because there's some pretty good, as you go up in the policies, you can get access to quality artillery. And this one even brings some naval stuff. Not that important for the North, but the first one, Diplomacy 1, is nice because infield, eventually you get to the point where you're churning out more Springfield rifles than you've got and soldiers to hold them. But that doesn't really crank up for a couple of years. And early on, like in 1862, as we start to build out these larger Eastern and Western armies, these Enfield and Lorentz rifles will be helpful. So I will get Diplomacy 1 at some point, fairly early. But I haven't actually chosen a policy yet. And I think the first thing that I'm going to do is I want to stabilize the manpower of the Army. And right now, the troops we actually have, especially in that Army of Northeastern Virginia, they are short-termers. Now, they'll get replaced, and we started the campaign with up to 12-month enlistment. But I think I would like to go ahead and fix it so that very soon new recruits are at least 24-month volunteers. So I'm going to go ahead and go Militia Act 3 for the first policy. Somewhat early, I want to go for Military 2 because that allows the Army Corps structure, which we don't have right now. That'll allow a lot more flexibility in maneuver, and it also helps with recruitment as well. Yeah, recruitment, civil order, and trade warfare subsidies go up. So, like right now, even at the max, where was that fund? Yeah. Even at the very high level, we're capped at 250K per. With military 2, I don't move the bar, but each one of these will bump up to max 500K, 500K, 500K with increased effects of all these. Trade war basically enhances the effectiveness of our blockade. So yeah, want and need that. Recruitment, pretty self-explanatory. The volunteers and drafts later on will increase in number. And civil order is all about national support, and also plays into intelligence gathering, so you can see what's going on around you. But I think for now, I'm establishing a blockade. If I don't kind of establish the legality of that blockade, that will annoy the Europeans. Legal blockade does have the effect of reducing trade. It does piss off Europe, but it also decreases the chance of intervention. So they're grumbly about it, but they recognize, okay, it's an established blockade in accordance with international law. So I'm going to go ahead and get this thing out of the... Oh, no. No. I'm going to do that after the... I'm working on the 24-month enlistment. Kind of like the economy where, you know, there's a whole bunch of stuff going on, but it's not actually a trade-off hard decision. Railroads. So basically there are railroads, some of them are under your control, some are not. Like obviously the Texas, Houston and Shreveport Railroad down here is not under my control. But basically if you have any railroads that are under your control and they are partially completed, then you have the option to work on that and increase your rail capacity. So while I was off camera, I started working on completing this Iowa railroad and a Minnesota railroad, which will in turn increase supply, increase the flow of goods, and you know, there's simply no reason not to throw some money at building a railroad that's within your control. So I did that. Okay, this is kind of overview map. Front lines, blue is north, red is south. This red up here is British Canada. Same color, but that's obviously not Confederacy up here. Naval, as I talked about what I did with these squadrons, first of all, I did rename them so that they're a little bit more, you know, which Atlantic squadron is doing what. Don't have that anymore. Virginia blockade, that's the seagoing blockade squadron up here that is still ordered to move into the Capes area and blockade these Virginia ports. The Chesapeake blockade, this is basically riverine, and it's going to move down here to, well, no reason not to move it now, I guess. Where did I put it? There it is. Actually, I think he can just... No, we need to move him down. He's going to come sit here in the Chesapeake Bay. This is essentially a riverine squadron, but it's going to be in the bay. I don't want to move him too close because against the combined power of these two squadrons, this Confederate squadron here, the James River Squadron, isn't much of a force. But if this squadron can engage my smaller squadron by itself, it could win before the C squadron comes into play. Don't want that. So I don't want to move the Chesapeake blockade squadron in so close that it can't retreat, because then it might just disintegrate. But these other squadrons have got like the Mobile blockade, Hatteras blockade, that's the North Carolina guys, Charleston blockade covering Charleston and Savannah, Louisiana and Texas blockade, pretty self-explanatory. And I had pulled a lot of the smaller steamer type river capable ships. I pulled those out of the sea-going blockade squadrons and put them back into this ships and harbor pool. And then I redistributed them, and I have formed 3 riverine squadrons, which I shortened. So I got Rivron 1, Rivron 2, Rivron 3. And these are over here. Rivron 1, that was the campaign start named Mississippi Squadron. It's still only 1 ship actually on station, but it's got 8 ships assigned to it, which will eventually show up. So this one's up here near St. Louis. And then I created another river squadron here at Evansville, Indiana, and one down here at Cairo. And right now they're all red readiness, and their ships aren't even there yet. And that will take several weeks of game time for them to collect up all their ships and get up to yellow and then green readiness. And then what I intend to do with them is station them on these rivers. The Mississippi, this is the Ohio right here, but the Cumberland, which runs up or runs down rather from Nashville, and then the Tennessee here. Initially, they will not be able to go up very far because there are forts along here. Fort Henry, Fort Donelson, and I can't remember the name of the third fort. And they will not be able to go past that. But I'm going to station a squadron here, and they provide eyes. You know, they've got a, you know, they clear a little bit of fog of war, so we get more visibility on what's going on in this area. And if I understand from a recent patch, not this most recent one, but in a previous patch that I haven't actually played with, supposedly these naval forces on rivers do a better job now of preventing river movement by enemy armies. I hope that's the case. So by placing them on these major rivers, hopefully I can prevent a Confederate army from popping onto the river and slipping along and, you know, getting up into Illinois or some kind of end run like that. So that's the naval picture. Kind of sort of 4 theaters, 2 of which are fairly minor and 2 are bigger, but just going from west to east, I'm calling this the Trans-Mississippi, where we just have this one little pretty small army, which I renamed the Army of the Missouri. I don't really want this guy fighting. Not very big, and you know, I don't want to see this army get into a battle because it's probably not going to do that great. It's only 5,000 men. So I have ordered General Lyon to pull all the way back to St. Louis. And when he gets there, I'm just going to have this army build some forts in the area to make sure that St. Louis is completely locked in. After that, maybe kind of a few more forts, establishing control down and protecting Cairo as well. I don't foresee this as being much of a fighting army. They should get a lot of engineering experience, though, building forts. Over here in kind of the main Western theater, the Kentucky, Tennessee area, and hopefully later on in the campaign, Georgia, Alabama. But I've started recruiting an army here. For now, it's called the Army of the Ohio. That name might change later as it moves south. And of course, I put Grant in charge. Who else? This is just a shell right now. Grant's there. Nobody else is. One dude present. Doesn't even have his staff. But basically, I've recruited what I could. And eventually, it'll be bigger than this. But I've recruited several brigades for 3 divisions and some separate artillery. But that force doesn't actually exist yet. It's gathering now. Kind of the not quite eastern, but sort of in the Appalachian theater, I suppose. This one militia unit that was up here in Wheeling. Low readiness, and it will not gain readiness very fast, nor can it do anything else in what is still Confederate territory. So I've just told this guy to come on down to Marietta and basically just regain readiness, because he needs to build back up to green. May or may not have him build a fort to safeguard this line of communication. McClellan's army here at Grafton, I've named that the Army of the Kanawha. Kanawha is the main river in western Virginia. I think this is the Kanawha here that runs here past Charleston. I could be wrong about that. But for now, as I mentioned last episode, first task in Western Virginia is I want to lock down this line of communication that crosses over from the Shenandoah. So for now, I'm just going to have McClellan build a fort. That'll work. Speaking of forts, I mentioned last episode, I did go around and sprinkle politically appointed officers in pretty much all the forts, like Fort Niagara up here. Lieutenant Colonel Harrison Hobart is a political general from Wisconsin. Didn't have very good stats, but the fact that he's in command somewhere will bump up support in Wisconsin a little bit. And we've got something like 20-something forts at this point. There will be more. And most of them have political generals, political officers. A lot of them are lieutenant colonels and colonels in command. Some of them were pretty good, that had 7 or 8 or 9 stars, and they're still in the pool. They may see command of brigades and divisions and field armies as those grow. There are some pretty good ones. And that brings us to the Eastern Theater, and I think what we're going to do here I don't think I really want a battle yet, but I am going to go ahead and move Patterson's force across the river and get him to secure Harper's Ferry and this supply depot. That may or may not instigate a battle, I'm not sure. And what that, whenever you give an order on the campaign map, that time right there, that's 2 hours and 39 minutes until, on the campaign map, the orders emanate from the War Department in Washington. It's going to take a little over 2.5 hours, even with telegraph, for that order to get to Patterson and get his army organized and start moving. So I've given the order, but it's going to take 2.5 hours before this force even begins to move. And that's what that order delay was that I chose at the beginning of the campaign. And that's on the campaign map, and that also takes place during the tactical battles as well. There's a delay from the time that you give an order to the time that the unit's commander receives it, disseminates it within his unit, gets the unit ready, and then it begins to move. So there's a lot of anticipation that's required, and things develop somewhat slow as a result. Okay, so that's that force, and now the main army under McDowell. I just left these two forces named as they were, Department of Pennsylvania and Army of Northeastern Virginia, because the obvious name for this one was Army of the Shenandoah, because that's where he's going to be operating. Well, the Confederates already took that name. The obvious eventual name for this army is the Army of the Potomac, which that name is taken by this. So just kind of to, keep it from, two armies of the Shenandoah fighting each other and two armies of the Potomac fighting each other. For now, I just left these named the same. Eventually, I would expect that these two current armies will eventually be two corps within a much larger Army of the Potomac. All right. I think it's time for McDowell to march across the Potomac and engage the Confederate Army of the Potomac, as I said, hopefully before they destroy this supply depot. Which is a new thing. I have not seen the destruction of supply depots before. So he's closer to the War Department. It's going to take him a shorter amount of time to get rolling. And now, for the first time in the campaign, I will start the clock rolling. Yep, this guy's already moving over here. Yeah, I suspect we're going to be fighting both of those forces. And they stop at night and camp. Well, I had an auto pause apparently. Oh, that's one of the blockade. I had given orders to some of the blockade squadrons to move to their locations. That's what that was. I guess that engendered an auto pause. Okay, so this was a naval battle. The naval battles are not tactical. They just simply occur. So that James River Squadron did come out of Norfolk and fought against the Virginia blockade force, which is the sea force, stronger force, and predictably they didn't do so hot and they have retreated. Looks like we captured a couple of ships too. Yeah, we captured the CSS Patrick Henry and the CSS Teaser. Small 2 guns, no armor. I don't even know if it's worth paying upkeep on that thing. I'm not even going to keep that. Delete. This is a third-rate steamer. I think that's worth keeping. I don't think it's worth keeping in this squadron. But I think he'll find a home somewhere. In one of the riverine squadrons or a later river squadron. Go ahead and move him over here. Let him repair. It's not worth any, even if I kept him, he's only at 21% readiness. Obviously need to change the name to, you can say Patrick Henry, but you're going to be USS. Now, these 2 naval squadrons are at yellow readiness, but naval forces actually bump up in readiness pretty quickly. And they're kind of place them and forget. Like if they need provisions or some of the ships need repairs, they just cycle them back to port automatically. There's not a whole lot of micro that goes on with naval stuff, really. Okay, let's see how these fellows are doing up here. Get the clock rolling again. McDowell's back on the move. Okay, so the engagement is occurring. If that other Confederate army was close enough to enter this battle, it would appear on this page as an additional army that would enter the battle at some point, not necessarily at the beginning. It looks like we have forced this engagement before the Confederate Army of the Shenandoah got within reinforcement range. That's a good thing. We do have the first option is play the battle. That means we take tactical control and fight the battle out. There is an auto-resolve option. There is a deploy to defend option, in which case we've made contact, but we dig in, and it's really kind of up to the enemy commander what happens next. And you could wind up in kind of an ongoing field siege, where you've got basically trench warfare going on for quite a while. We could elect to withdraw, or just elect to retreat entirely. Withdrawal is supposed to be a little bit more of an orderly, there's rear guard, everything's maintaining cohesion, you disengage slower, but kind of in better order, and then retreat is just everybody run for the hills and break contact as quickly as you can. Obviously, we were seeking this battle, not doing either one of those. We're going to go ahead and play this battle out. Which may take a while. This might be a long episode. I don't know. But things are looking pretty good for us. We've got 33,000 men. Intel, even now at this point, it's telling us 19,000 men, but that may not be exactly accurate. And we should have a pretty, even if the intel's a little off, we should have a pretty good advantage here. And we've got green troops, and some of them have some pretty crappy weapons, but that's true for the Confederates as well. Okay, this is kind of preamble stuff here. First things, let's look at the objectives. There are two objectives. There's Matthews Hill here and Henry Hill here, currently under Confederate control. We are attacking, and we are starting over here in the direction of Centerville, coming down the Warrenton Turnpike. This is the Manassas battlefield. I think this is Bull Run, running right through here, and it's an appropriate map for the location that we're at. Scouts report the enemy is near Manassas Junction. Yep. Facing, it is Beauregard. They are green, as are we. Their morale is eager. I think ours is probably pretty close to that. And both armies are in good supply state. Okay. Then the consolidated report. Not a whole lot of information in here now, but as the battle goes on, you start getting update. You know, this is kind of updated in real time on the condition of the two sides, casualty reports, strength, all that sort of thing. So probably we'll be referring back to this at various points during the battle. Okay. And we are allowed to place our forces anywhere we want within this radius right here. So there will not be contact initially. We're going to have to place our forces and then march a ways. One thing I forgot to mention earlier, I looked through the armory. We did have some decent small arms available, and the majority of them I put into this army for obvious reasons, since I expected this battle. The 1st Division is armed with Hall's rifles, which are actually a fantastic infantry small arms. I don't know the real world history of that weapon, but it's a breech loading rifle. So it's got a fantastic rate of fire, it's got good accuracy, and it's got good range. You don't get very many of them. Like, I had enough for 3 brigades, and that might be all I have for this entire campaign. But they're definitely worth using. Pretty much at any stage. This isn't just an early war weapon, really. Breech loading, 8.5 rounds per minute. I had enough Springfield rifles to outfit the 2nd Division. And then the 3rd and 4th Division, they've just got regular Springfield muskets, smoothbores, which are not... The default weapon that you can always equip any brigade with is mixed smoothbores or mixed muskets. And the Springfield muskets aren't any better in firepower, but they come with a bayonet. So it's worth swapping out mixed muskets in favor of Springfield muskets, at least for melee, for charges and defending against charges. And then this is kind of different people play this different ways as far as I've seen in various YouTube videos. Basically, you can kind of sprinkle out your artillery, like 1 battery per division or something like that, or you can kind of concentrate it in their own separate artillery division. And that's what I've done here. And the few remaining, or the few initial good cannon, rifled cannon that I had available, they're in here. Battery A is a 20-pound Parrott. Battery B and Battery C are 10-pound Parrott. And Battery D is a 12-pound howitzer. Close range weapon, but up close, it ought to be pretty good. This battery I probably could have had with one of the infantry divisions, since it's going to be up close. But I think the plan is basically going to be come down the Warrenton Turnpike and pitch right in. Hopefully, we might get up here, make contact, and then even though he's on the defensive, the Confederates might, at the tactical level, decide to attack us. That would be the best case scenario. Whether they actually do that or not remains to be seen. Okay, that's... Well, first things first. Let's just get the whole army out here away from the edge so I can see what I'm doing better. I feel like I ought to be able to zoom in closer than that. All right. Okay, so the first division, these are the ones with the best rifles. I'm actually going to kind of hold him in the back, so I've got more flexibility on where he pitches in. It's Tyler. Second division have regular Springfield rifles. So the first and the second division have the better guns. Which means I'm going to lead with the third and the fifth. Because they're going to be kind of the ground holding cannon fodder. We use them to kind of make initial contact. And these are the artillery. Oh, that's why I wasn't able to zoom in, because I was still in HQ mode looking at those reports. I don't like the idea of all these divisions all coming through here, because most of that is wooded. I don't want them all clogged up on the road. But if you get them marching through a whole bunch of force, they tire out and lose cohesion pretty quickly. And we've got this ridge all the way across here. There's really no good way to get across here. But I think I'm going to bring 2 divisions straight down the pike, and I'm going to put 2 other divisions over this way. And they're going to come down this road and maybe engage right in this area. So initial contact will kind of be along here, focused on the stone bridge and maybe these 2 forts. But hopefully 2 other divisions can get across Bull Run uncontested and get on the Confederate side of the river. Let's do that. And we'll send the 2nd division. It's be a little finicky on getting. There we go. Okay, so we can put these guys right on the turnpike. All right. Now, and I think this is a downslope. This is I think. Yeah, I think we're going to want our artillery right up in here. So they'll go right down the pike behind the infantry. There is some possibility that the Confederate Army could loop around this way, kind of in the reverse of what I'm doing. However, they're currently holding the objectives. And the onus is on us to attack. So, I'm kind of not expecting the AI to do that. I could be wrong. Okay, get the clock rolling. And I want to get the Army Commander McDowell kind of in between the 2 wings so that there's not too much of a distance. For him to send orders. Speed time up a little bit. I'm just letting McDowell kind of get over here, and then we'll get the infantry moving. Go ahead and get Heinzelman moving toward Island Ford. And Hunter moving up behind him. Get Miles moving up, and initially we'll just tell him to go right on the edge of this forest line on the other side of the ridge. Tyler behind. On the artillery, let's take out the terrain. Yeah, it's just going to be a intermediate position. They won't be able to shoot much from there, but we'll just get the artillery moving up at least. Get McDowell up in this position between the two wings. Let's slow down a little bit here and see what their cohesion is after the march. Yeah, a little disrupted. Just let them sit a little bit, gather themselves. Heinzelman and Hunter have made it to their intermediate position. Check their status. Intact. Intact. Okay. Situation, you get little greens and red, you know, buffs and debuffs. Like this brigade is happy because commanders are nearby, but not so happy because it's their first battle experience. Well, guess what? That's true for everybody in this battle, both sides. Let's see. Why is the artillery taking so long? That guy's not even moving at all. Maybe he's waiting for these other batteries to get further up the road? Cohesion failing, but that's actually an improvement from disrupted, so they are recovering cohesion. As you can see, they don't move very fast, especially at real time. And it's pretty common on the first day of a battle. You know, you may or may not make contact, and if you do, there may not be that much fighting on the first day, depending on when nightfall is. This is in July, so I think nightfall will be. It'll probably go till about 8 or 9 o'clock at night, 20 or 2100. I'm going to go ahead and order Heinzelman to cross over. I'm going to put him in single line. I thought I was putting him in single line. Oh, because the order has to come down to him. I hope I don't wind up regretting overlooking balls forward here. Until I've got better visibility on that, I think I'm going to kind of put Hunter in a covering position here, just in case. So what's happening here is McDowell is some distance away. So these are the couriers here carrying those orders. That's why those divisions haven't started moving yet. Now if they were closer, inside this circle, within McDowell's command radius, they would get those orders much faster. Either by bugle call or signal flag or something, I guess. See, now those couriers have gotten to Heinzelman and he's starting to move. Okay, these guys have kind of gotten their crap together. And McDowell within command radius of the Army commander. Hopefully this goes a little bit faster. First thing I'm going to tell them to do is go ahead and put out skirmishers. That'll increase their field of their view a little bit. So the 3 front brigades will put out a skirmish line. You see that fog of war is kind of receding a little bit, just past the bridge. I'm going to go ahead and tell Miles, move on up this way. And those skirmishers should maintain position in front of their respective brigades. Meanwhile, Tyler, I'm going to tell him to come up here on the other side of the road, like so. I do not understand why that battery is not moving. Send him a special order to move. I don't know how long it's going to take. That doesn't look. I'm going to counterman that. I don't like that path. It's the same thing. Now he's waiting for the order to come back from Ord in charge of the artillery division. These guys are kind of sort of moving. Let's speed this up a little bit. Well, for some reason, Heinzman didn't execute his order. Give it again. All right, we've made contact. And they're entrenched on the hill. Not full entrenchments, but breastworks, bad enough. All right, well, I don't think there's any Johnny Rebs right around in this area. We can go ahead and move Hunter up across the river. I think I'm going to extend Heinzelman up this way. We'll put Hunter here. And there's going to be some order delay. And we know the Confederate Army is only about maybe 60%, 65% the size of ours. This might be pretty much the majority of their dispositions right here. If that's true, I think the thing to do is kind of fix them facing this way. Go ahead and cross, but not get within rifle range just yet. And then we just move in from both sides. Make the attack over here, forcing them to honor that threat, and then these guys can advance, or vice versa. But we need to get the artillery up in place as well, which we want them probably right along in here. Go ahead and move the arty up now. And I think they can move up pretty close. That's fine. Get Tyler's division kind of over this way. Get Heinzelman to throw out skirmishers. And Hunter. Get Hunter into single line. Oh, need to go through and make sure everyone is under orders to fire at long range. Especially the rifles. Now the reason I went through and gave that range order division by division is because it takes a lot less time for that to go from the division commander to the brigades than to go from the army commander to the division commander to the brigades. If that makes sense. And at this point, it's mainly about it's just artillery moving. No. Because he hasn't gotten the order yet from the army commander to move the artillery up. This battle actually may not kick off until the morning. No, that order should have gotten there by now. For some reason, that just didn't take. Ord. Move the arty up to... Okay, I'll buy that. Go. Oh, courier already delivering orders to this unit. There he goes. Okay. Another kind of quirk of this game is that the line of sight rules for artillery are pretty maddening to figure out. I don't know if this is a great arty position or a terrible one. And these are supposed to be kind of the cones, you know, these orange. Sometimes they're very hard to see, and a lot of times they just don't make sense. I don't know what to tell you about that. It looks like, in general, they are not in a very good position to hit the Confederate positions. I'm going to have to move them again. If I can find a good spot to put them. I don't know if there is a good spot to hit them from here. There ought to be. I mean, these aren't smooth bores. Most of them are rifled artillery. I think maybe this These ripe crops may be blocking line of sight too. I don't think that's going to cut it. But I think we're about to run out of daylight anyway. So I'm not going to order him to move again. I'm just going to move McDowell over closer to this ford, shorter distance. Once the brigades start moving forward, I think he's still safe right in this area. Yep, darkness has fallen. And we can move up a lot closer now. Okay. Let's get Heinzelman over here. Hunter right along in here. I think I can actually put him right on that creek, which is good cover. Maybe not the best field to fire, though. Okay, I think that'll do. Let's go single line here. I think McDowell can just go basically right. Probably about there ought to be outside of musket range. And Ord. Let's get the artillery. Okay, I hope that works. As soon as they hit play, I think there's going to be some musketry popping off. All right. Maybe this will start going a little quicker now. Yep, see, we've already made this. Yeah, Cook doesn't like his position there. Can't say I blame him. get Heinzelman advancing up through here. Some Confederate skirmishers here. It shouldn't take long for them to be driven back. Not quite ready to try to force the entrenchments. Move Tyler up just a little bit. These skirmishers are wavering over here, Confederate skirmishers. Okay, they've broken. Not going to move these brigades yet, but these skirmishers here, let's put them forward a little bit. Kind of waiting for Heinzelman's attack to begin developing over here before I do much else. These guys are still entrenched right in here. I don't want to move forward with Miles yet. And Tyler hasn't moved up yet either. As soon as he does, he's going to have really good rifle coverage all through here. Heinzelman is moving now. Think Hunter can cross. There's only one brigade left in the entrenchments. Are my guns firing at all? No. Actually, I think right up here would be a good spot for them, but it may take them forever to get there now. Maybe not. I feel like I've just mucked up the artillery something awful. Well, here's a whole Union division coming up right behind Beauregard. Wonder what he thinks about that. So they're kind of milling around here. Most of them have pulled back from the entrenchments. Hunter is coming across alongside Heinzelman. I think Miles can advance. I think Tyler can advance. I think McDowell can kind of move right over here. Well, they're remanning their line, their entrenchments. Heinzman needs to pitch in right now to the hill. And Hunter needs to take up an enfilade position right in here. Otherwise, Miles' attack is going to not go very well. So these guys are kind of back in cover, but they've been milling around. They're kind of tired out. They're winded as well. Some of these guys are. Still low casualties both sides. We'll see if that stays that way. Tyler's division has got to come up here and flank this line and roll them up from our road. Because right now it is not going well for Miles. That wavering group is just skirmishers. That's not a disaster yet. Really need Hunter to get across here. Really need Heinzman to get up here on Henry Hill. I think I may have kicked off this frontal assault a little too early. Getting a little worried. Okay, Confederate 7th Brigade is getting pushed back by fire from Tyler's division. I think that's Tyler's division. Okay, that brigade is routing. That's not a good thing. Oh, the artillery is just a non-factor here. Just move on up. Get the 2nd Brigade under fire. Sherman's coming up. Hopefully he'll finish off 7th Brigade. Where is Porter? Bring that skirmisher in. Alright, Miles' division has been wrecked. looking to get Miles over there where he can help McDowell maybe rally some of these guys. Hunter's division's at least engaged now, or two of the brigades are. Burnside huffing along in the back there. Pencilman's still advancing. Howard is supposed to come up to here. Wilcox to here, so their attack is continuing. Notionally. Take your time, gents. Jeez. This is the main effort over here now. I'm not going to be too aggressive with Tyler. I do need him to keep firing, though, in their what is now becoming their rear. 2nd Brigade. Sherman to take 7th Brigade under fire. A fair number of casualties, but the Confederates now have as well. Let's get Schenck across. Keep these Hall rifles working in their rear. Tyler himself needs to move up, stay right close to his brigades. Miles is just wrecked. And the artillery is just completely... I did something wrong with the artillery in the orders giving. I think Porter needs to move up a little bit. Casualty disparity is increasing. Sherman needs to move up now. Come up, yeah. Let's get about in here. Looks pretty good for Tyler's division. Richardson's brigade's doing yeoman work over here. Finally, once they got out the position. It turned out okay, but the timing of the two attacks, and I obviously I did something wrong with the artillery. I don't quite understand what I could and should have done different there. These are just skirmishers. Let's get these brigades up. Advance. Advance. Okay, the enemy is retreating, and we've got 49 minutes to inflict further casualties, which we don't have cavalry, neither do they, so basically they're just going to keep running until they're out of range. Not much we can do about it after that. See if we can sidle. This guy is kind of over this way. These guys are fine right where they are, I think. Richardson already advancing over here. All Heinzelman's guys are slowly advancing. Oh my goodness. Here, just stop here. Stop and shoot at somebody. Dang, Artie. Well, it's lopsided enough. We may actually get a major victory out of this. Looks like we are. That's pretty good. Those aren't that common. these guys still... Well, they've routed, but they didn't completely run off the field. And they took about, it's like 15% casualties. About 20%. Ow. First Brigade got schwacked pretty good. Almost 500 casualties. I did not do a great job with those guys. They went in too early. They didn't have support from the left or right fast enough. I say they went in too early. I sent them in too early. Once units go full routed like this, or like this, your own guys will just not shoot at them anymore. You can order them to fire on them repeatedly and repeatedly, and they just won't. So I think everything's routed. Well, this guy's not fully routed, but I don't really have anything that can run him down. Yeah, we'll just fast forward. Uh, 2,300, 7,500, and that's almost 40% of the Confederate force. Now that's total casualties. That is not KIA. A lot of those are wounded. A lot of those are missing. A pretty good percentage of that will recover after the battle, and then more will trickle back in. And there's, you know, like medical capacity that can increase the rate of, you know, wounded returning back to their units faster, that sort of thing. Okay. Well, he lost a pretty good chunk of his infantry. The bars don't really match. All right. This red should be like more down here. But I've never seen that match. He lost all his guns, apparently. No, he lost none of his guns. They were off to the side. They didn't really come under attack. Meanwhile, we didn't lose any guns, at least. I don't know if they ever shot at anything. Did lose 2,000 men. Let's do a quick inspect the battlefield, just so... Let's look at the returns here. I would suspect a lot of those casualties were delivered by... See, here's a good example right here of how the numbers are a little bit... So we saw that they had taken about 7,000 casualties. But if you look at the returns here, we only inflicted not quite 5,000, 4,800. And that difference is probably... you know, a couple of thousand guys in the routed units. They're not dead or wounded. They're missing right now. But we didn't actually inflict those casualties. They're routed. That's how I interpret that anyway. And oh, yeah. It was the 1st Division. These are the These are the 3 brigades that were armed with the Hall's rifle that came on the right and kind of got in the rear of what became the rear of the Confederates. You can see there are pretty disproportionate casualties inflicted by those 3 brigades. And then the 2nd Division, that was Hunter. Inflicted almost 1,000 casualties. 5th Division is Heinzelman. No, I think 3rd Division's Heinzelman. 5th Division is the one those were the sacrificial lambs. Yeah, these are the guys that, I mean, they inflicted 942 casualties before they broke. And what kind of, and I'm sure they took by far the lion's share of the casualties on our side. Casualties. Yeah. 1,500 out of the total 2,200 were in the 5th Division. Well, it was a little messy, and I wish I had done better, but it is a major victory. Yeah, so we want a victory there, so the national morale drops by a little bit. Union side military experience rises. That's a pretty good chunk, actually. Tyler has become famous and is an inspiration for his men. Well, at least we didn't have any disgraced officers from our breaking brigades in the center, which I think is fair because they did what they could, and I'm glad we didn't have any officers that were disgraced because their units broke. That does happen. And we did capture some rifles. It says rifles. It'll be small arms. So those are in our armory now. Some of those could be better than mixed muskets. There might be some reboard muskets in there. There might be some Mississippi rifles. We'll have to see. Anyway, first major battle of the campaign. And that'll be the end of the episode, but I'm just kind of curious to see as he retreats if that supply depot stops burning down. Nope, still burning. Yeah. And so units, the armies are still in contact. There's a rearguard action going on, and units are still being shown as routed in the after action as the armies disengage. Now, we're not in great shape, but I wonder if we can get up here close enough to... Well, this is considered a Union supply depot now. But it's also still showing as burning down. That sucks. Oh, looks like we had a naval fight down down here. Yep. Captured a Confederate ship here. What do we got? A schooner. 3 guns, no armor. I don't believe I want to pay upkeep on that. Well, I don't know if it's just a time delay thing and it'll quit in a moment, or if there's something I need to do to keep the supply depot from burning down. But I think it's a pretty long episode already, and I'm going to put in a break right here. Thank you very much for watching.